Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving my match predictions for week 32 Premier League fixtures. And if we get anything like we just saw in week 31, we are in for a treat. We saw Arsenal yet again drop points in the title race against West Ham, dropping a 2-0 lead, drawing 2-2. We saw other amazing games like Bournemouth beat Tottenham Hotspur away from home to pretty much secure, hopefully, their Premier League survival for next season. We also saw other amazing games like Brighton march all the way to Stamford Bridge and pick up all 3 points, with Chelsea not being in great form at all. So going into week 32, I expect more goals, more drama and more entertainment like we always do, and I don't think it's going to disappoint. We got Newcastle versus Tottenham Hotspur. What a massive game. This is going to be a decisive one when it comes to the top 4 race between the two sides. We got other great games like Arsenal versus Southampton. Southampton pretty much on their knees, their last words. They need a victory at the Emirates to somehow potentially get Premier League survival this season, since there will be 2 or 3 points adrift from pretty much Premier League survival. However, before going into this video and give my match predictions, you know what I'm going to say. Make sure you guys like, comment and hit that subscribe button right there, because only 10% of you guys actually subscribed. And make sure you give your predictions in the comment section. Who do you think is going to be winning in week 32 Premier League fixtures? So the first game I'm going to be predicting is Arsenal versus Southampton, and what a massive decisive game is going to be for both clubs on Friday. For Arsenal, we know chasing the Premier League title, and we know Southampton, like I said in my introduction, they are on their last words, hopefully looking for a victory to pretty much make sure that their hopes for Premier League survival isn't dead and buried. And going into this game, I have to start with the protagonists, Arsenal, this season. And like I've been saying all year, they have been marvellous, phenomenal, breathtaking, the best team to watch all season. However, in the most pivotal stage of the season, we are seeing it right between our eyes. They are melting down. They can't handle the pressure. The inexperience factor is playing a part, and they're not excelling to the levels as we have seen in the last few months or so. We have been seeing them not only choke a 2-0 lead at Anfield, which people will brush to the side because we know anything can happen at Anfield, but they choked a 2-0 lead against West Ham, a team in their history they usually beat with ease. There's no other way of defining this. This is a choke job, since Arsenal are doing things which we have not been seeing all season. They're choking away leads where we know away from home they have been usually in control and dominant and never let anything faze them. We saw Saka miss his first penalty in a Arsenal shirt, something we barely see. We even saw Ramsdale, who's been making big saves apparently for Arsenal, let an easy one slip by when Bowen scored that goal on the half volley. We're seeing things in this Arsenal side which we have not been seeing all season, and that is the definition of a choke job. When the pressure rises, we see the palms get sweaty, the knees get weak, and Arsenal are starting to fold and crack, especially since they're looking over their shoulder and they know that in their rearview mirror, Manchester City are chasing them down. However, going into this game against Southampton, Arsenal could not have picked a better side to get their form back. This is because we know Southampton are pretty much the worst team in the league as we speak. They are 20th within the Premier League table as we speak, and Arsenal are at the Emirates, so even if they go down, even if they concede ground, obviously choking another 2-1, 2-0 lead, potentially that will not faze them and the fans will get them over the line. I do hope for Arsenal's sake that Mikel Arteta is smart, he's strategic, he's wise, he's learned from Pep Guardiola that sometimes it's okay to drop your big guns. If they're not performing, let them have a breather, and potentially the hunger and desire could come back into them for potentially the next few games or so. So I'm saying Bukayo Saka has to be dropped, because in the last few games he hasn't been reaching the standards and the levels we have known him to be in the last few years or so. Potentially play Trossard down the middle, Jesus down the right, because we know he's flexible, and the front three can rotate wherever they like because of their fluid movement, and we know they're intelligent footballers picking up different pockets of the pitch and literally hurting the back line. This should be easy pickings for Arsenal, and this game should be a starter factor for when it comes to Arsenal's confidence for the remainder of the season. Southampton have been so dreadful, so poor this season. You're facing Southampton, who we know have lost their last 3 games in a row, who are not showing any signs of life. It feels like they've pretty much surrendered, and we know their manager at the moment, who used to be their assistant manager, isn't stepping up to the mark of a Premier League manager who knows what it takes to survive in this league. So I feel like it's going to be a straightforward victory for Arsenal. It should be. I'm going to go for a 3-0 standard victory for Arsenal at home within this fixture against a very poor Southampton side. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Newcastle United versus Tottenham Hotspur. And what a massive pivotal game this is going to be for literally the top 4 race this season. Both teams literally dropped points in their last fixture, actually losing, so they're going to be eager and have the desire and the passion to bounce back to literally get themselves back on track when it comes to the top 4 race. And going into this game, I feel like it's a no-brainer. Newcastle have to be considered the favourites. We know all season Newcastle have been the more polished team. They've been the finished article. They've already beaten Tottenham Hotspur this season away from home. So why can't they do at St James's Park, where we know they pretty much have an unblemished record? The only time losing was actually against Liverpool when they had 10 men. With the Geordies in high anticipation going into this game, the Newcastle players are going to feel the atmosphere, they are going to get that energy, they are going to feed off it, and the intensity and spirit which they didn't have in that lackluster performance against Aston Villa is going to be on full display against Tottenham Hotspur at St James's Park. I don't see how Tottenham Hotspur are going to be able to live with Newcastle. They're just going to be overwhelmed, and we know when the pressure's there for Tottenham Hotspur, they usually falter, they usually choke, and they act in Spursy fashion and never able to live up to the expectations which some pundits and other football fans in general have of them. And also, I have to talk about Stellini, the Tottenham Hotspur manager, and what a bad addition he has been when it comes to managing Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham Hotspur would have been way better off getting a caretaker manager who knows what he's doing. Literally, what Stellini's doing is playing a watered down version of Antonio Conte football, and it's not working. Tottenham Hotspur are still favouring that 3-4-3 formation, and yes, I'm one of the massive critics saying that Tottenham Hotspur can't play a 4 at the back since they have dreadful defenders, but at least try, because you've been playing this 3-5 at the back and it hasn't really been working. Maybe altering it to a 4, making it about goals rather than defence. Tottenham Hotspur can maybe potentially win this game if it's a thriller, like we have seen at times this season when they have beaten Bournemouth 4-3, when they have beaten other teams like Leeds, when it's literally all out, not worrying about defending and worrying about attacking, because you know what, quality players like Son and Harry Kane within the final third who can do some heavy lifting. But I'm very disappointed in Stellini, a manager who was the assistant to Antonio Conte, who had a golden opportunity to manage a top 6 side until the end of the season, to prove your worth that potentially you can be sitting in the hot seat next season. You literally show no uniqueness, you don't show your bravery, your courage to implement a new system since the old system hasn't been working. And going in this game against Newcastle, I know they had that little blip against Aston Villa, which was their worst performance of the season. We know Newcastle are a well-coached, experienced side who know what they are doing, they know the system, they know how to get the better of teams, and I feel like they're going to enter this sort of realm of form when it comes to beating Tottenham Hotspur. I don't see Tottenham Hotspur winning this game. Maybe the 3-4-3 soaking up pressure, counter-attacking against teams. Newcastle are going to be in the front foot and then play into the hands of Tottenham Hotspur. But the thing is, when it comes to counter-attacking football, you're supposed to soak up pressure. And I don't think stage 1, Tottenham Hotspur can do that due to the fact they got one of the worst defences, not only in the top half, but in the whole of the Premier League, despite playing 3 at the back. I can't see anything but a Newcastle standard win. I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory for the Geordies at home within this fixture. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Liverpool versus Nottingham Forest. And what a massive game this is going to be, not only for Liverpool, who potentially have an outside chance of getting top 4, it's a massive game for Nottingham Forest, who we know are pretty much in the relegation zone as we speak. And entering this game, you know me as a pessimistic Liverpool fan this season because of how poor we've been performing. I actually have a little bit of a spring in my step. I'm actually a little bit hopeful that Liverpool can actually get the job done. This is because, first of all, we're at home and we're a sleeping giant who needs to be awoke by our fans with their cheering, their loud energy, which allows our players to feed off. But not only that factor that we're at home, which makes me very hopeful we can get the victory against Nottingham Forest, but literally also due to the fact that Liverpool, in their last 135 minutes of football, they are actually looking like a very good side who have been able to score goals and dominate games. That last 45 minutes against Arsenal has acted as if it was a catalyst which sparked our great performance against Leeds, where we were able to demolish them 6-1. I feel like it's a copycat league. Everyone looks at Pep Guardiola as the source when it comes to inspiration, when it comes to copying tactics, and that's what Jurgen Klopp has done. He's literally implemented Trent Alexander-Arnold as that third extra midfielder where he tucks in like John Stones, and he's implemented that box midfield where you have Trent Alexander-Arnold, Fabinho, Henderson, and obviously Curtis Jones in that more advanced area, which allows Liverpool to not only have more control of the ball in possession, but also in the counter-pressing system. When they lose the ball in bad areas, there are more bodies in the middle of the pitch to stop and prevent counter-attacks. And that has been one of Liverpool's biggest worries all season, where it feels like whenever we lost the ball in the midfield, in dangerous areas, teams were able to slice through us like butter as if we weren't even there. So the extra man in the midfield defensively has been great, and we know Trent Alexander-Arnold, when he's on the ball in a more central position on the right hand side, can create opportunities like we saw against Leeds, getting 2 assists. Not only that, we know Liverpool going forward are very good when they are clicking and firing at all cylinders. Gakpo, I love him. He's one of my favourite Liverpool players, dropping off deep. Whenever he has the ball, he knows how to shield it, protect the ball, drive at the defence, and always makes the right decision. Mohamed Salah is a cold-blooded machine, a hired gunman at the highest level, Jota scoring goals again. So I'm liking Liverpool's prospects, I'm liking his confidence, and I'm liking that the performances are matching the results we have been recently getting. And going into this game, Nottingham Forest are the perfect opponent to have. This is because we know Nottingham Forest have been dreadful for the last 2 months. I don't know if it's a lack of complacency, the fact that they've been found out now, and there's been talks that maybe Steve Cooper should have been sacked a little bit sooner, because now Nottingham Forest are stuck with him and they haven't been getting results. Yes, Nottingham Forest won in the reverse tie, but we know Nottingham Forest at home are a completely different animal than away from home. They are timid, they don't know how to do it in the Premier League when you have to go on the road and show their still competitive toughness side, which Nottingham Forest have lacked throughout the whole season. I feel like in this game, it should be straightforward for Liverpool. We should be able to beat them, and we should be seeking vengeance for the 1-0 defeat we suffered at the City Ground earlier this season. I think Liverpool should straight up beat Nottingham Forest. It should be clear sailing, and I'm going to be predicting a 3-1 victory for the home side within this game. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Brentford versus Aston Villa, and what's a massive game this is going to be for both sides who has European hopes of obviously playing in Europe next season. They desperately need the 3 points, so let's see which team will be able to grasp all points to literally parachute themselves into a great position. And going into this game, I feel like Aston Villa have to be considered the favourites. Yes, they are away from home, but we know this season Aston Villa, especially under Unai Emery, have been magnificent. If you minus Arsenal, I believe ever since the introduction of Unai Emery, no team have been able to acquire more points than him. He's been able to transform Aston Villa ever since Steven Gerrard got the sack. He's finally been able to get the best out of the players who were signed after the Jack Grealish era. In players like Buendia, Bailey, etc., the list goes on. We're seeing them flourish in full effect and showcase their brilliance. Watkins, his runs in behind, being more clinical, literally not doing the dirty work, so he saves his energy up front when it comes to making the runs and causing a threat for other opponents' centre-backs. He's been scoring goals, 14 Premier League goals, which is nothing to laugh at. Aston Villa have been excelling, they've been going strength to strength, and it's just such a great feel-good factor, and they have literally hit momentum at the perfect moment in the season to potentially capitalise on a Europa League position when it comes to playing Europa League football next season. And going into this game, I think Aston Villa are better than Brentford right now. Brentford have been having a great season all year. We know Ivan Toney are the third top goal scorer within the Premier League, which is nothing to be laughed at. And we know Thomas Frank has done a marvellous job, but it feels like it's starting to plateau a little bit at Brentford. Maybe they've entered a little bit of complacency. They're happy where they are on the table, and maybe they just can't find that extra gear to push on like Aston Villa are doing right now when it literally comes to cementing their place in Europa League football next season. Literally, Brentford have lost their last 3 games in a row. They're winless in their last 5 games, which shows you how long it's actually been. And we know earlier before that, Thomas Frank got Brentford in great form, literally being on a 12 to 13 game unbeaten streak. So I feel like complacency does add when it comes to this game. I'm going to go for Aston Villa win. They have been marvellous. They've been folding teams left, right and centre, no matter what the opposition are. I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory away from home for Aston Villa against Brentford in this game. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Bournemouth versus West Ham. And what a massive 3 points this could be for either side when it comes to the relegation battle. Both teams are in touching distance of pretty much not being in the relegation fight, since they are obviously 5 to 6 points clear. So a massive win in this game against each other for one of the sides will obviously put them in a commanding position to potentially play Premier League football next season. And going into this game, I think it's going to be nip and tuck. I don't think there's much to separate the two sides. I feel that obviously West Ham got the better quality in terms of individual players. Paqueta, we know he likes to drift into pockets and pull the strings. We know Declan Rice had a monster performance against Arsenal, and Bowen has finally awoken from his poor performances earlier on in the season, scoring a nice goal against Arsenal as well. And we know Ben Rama has been one of West Ham's most consistent players this season. But I feel like Bournemouth this season have been better coached and managed by Gary O'Neill, who deserves some recognition for being potentially the coach of the year this Premier League season. Considering the lack of Premier League experience he has as a manager, the players he has at his disposal, and the lack of budget he's actually playing with compared to other teams like Fulham, etc. The list goes on, who are actually spending big money, even on Forest. The fact he's got Bournemouth in this position when they looked dead and buried at the beginning of the season when they lost 9-0 against Liverpool at Anfield is a massive accomplishment. And the fact they beat Tottenham Hotspur away from home just shows you the levels he's been coaching them at. And he's got them playing at such a high level that they are walking into every game thinking that they could nick a point no matter what team they face. However, West Ham's performance against Arsenal will give them confidence going into this game that they could pick something up. However, at the end of the day, I'm going to sit on the fence. I think it's going to be a stalemate. I feel like both teams will fill each other out and there's not going to be a player who will be able to grab the game by the scruff of his neck. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between the two sides.